Welcome back to Toon Room. Today, we've got a Toon matchup. That's right, it's a battle of the boy geniuses. We're going to be asking ourselves an important question. Who is smarter? Dexter from Dexter's Lab or Jimmy from Jimmy Neutron? But if you like this kind of content, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And you can check out some of my original cartoons. They're in a playlist on the channel. So getting right into it, both Dexter and Jimmy are depicted as incredibly smart characters, but their intelligence manifests itself in slightly different ways. Dexter is a young boy genius who has a secret lab filled with advanced technology and experiments. Unlike Jimmy, Dexter hides his lab. It's an important component to the show that he hides it from his parents, whereas Jimmy Neutron, he is very upfront and public about it. His mom and dad know he's a boy genius with the lab. The whole town knows. A little bit of a different dynamic there. But Dexter's intelligence is often shown in his ability to invent and create complex machines and devices, but he's also portrayed as somewhat eccentric and prone to overconfidence. A lot of Dexter's inventions are classic giant robots, rays and beams, things like that. But I have to say, his biggest shortcoming is his own hubris and ego. Dexter is the kind of genius who reminds everyone that he's smarter than them all the time. Jimmy, on the other hand, is much more humble. Unlike Dexter, Jimmy actually has friends who are a lot less intelligent than him. However, Jimmy doesn't care and he doesn't rub his intellect in their face. Jimmy truly admires Carl and Sheen for their own unique qualities and the kinds of people they are, even though intelligence isn't one of their strong suits. Sure, Jimmy has his rivalry with Cindy Vortex, but from what I can recall, she was usually the one to instigate it and pick on Jimmy first. Probably because deep down she knew that while she was smart, Jimmy was always smarter. If Dexter ever met Carl or Sheen, he'd probably talk down to them. I highly doubt they'd ever be friends because Dexter would probably view them as being beneath him. However, if Jimmy ever met Dee Dee, rather than just yelling at her to get out of his lab, he'd probably think of an actual solution. Jimmy is a lot more clever than Dexter when it comes to problem solving. He'd probably build her a robot to be her friend, or invent a bouncy ball with an infinite bounce. Some toy or gizmo to keep Dee Dee distracted while he got to his work, rather than launching her out of his lab with a cannon like Dexter would probably do. Simply put, Jimmy is a lot nicer of a kid than Dexter is. From what I can remember, Dexter was short-fused and quick to get angry. While we do see Jimmy get angry at times, it's a lot more of a rare occurrence, especially when compared to Dexter. Jimmy is a lot more level-headed and emotionally stable than Dexter is, and we all know rage clouds our judgment and leads us to make impulsive and foolish decisions. Dexter's intelligence is overshadowed by his other personality traits. He can be competitive and stubborn, especially when it comes to his sister Dee Dee, who constantly causes chaos in his lab. His rivalry with Mandark also seems a lot more petty than the rivalry between Jimmy and Cindy. Throughout the show, it's strongly implied that Jimmy and Cindy do genuinely like each other. They admire each other's intelligence, and they might be mean to each other to try and hide their true feelings. This is definitely not the case for Jimmy and Mandark. They aren't secretly friends, and their rivalry isn't all that deep. It's simply a battle of egos, as they want to prove that they're smarter than the other for bragging rights. Jimmy Neutron, on the other hand, is also a boy genius, but his intelligence seems a bit more polished and practical. Jimmy acts a lot more like a normal kid than Dexter does. We rarely see Dexter leaving the lab or hanging out with other kids. Jimmy, on the other hand, had a good relationship with his parents, his friends, and even his robot dog Goddard. We see Jimmy having sleepovers, going to amusement parks, and eating ice cream. All normal kid stuff. Dexter, on the other hand, is almost always locked away in his lab, usually alone. Jimmy's inventions are often larger in scale, and he uses them to solve various problems, from saving his town to solving world-threatening dilemmas. He's often portrayed as more socially well-adjusted than Dexter, and his character seems to have a bit more self-awareness of how to apply his intellect in real-world situations, often working with his friends to solve problems together. Jimmy functions well in a team. He is smart enough to know that he can't always do it on his own. He will work with Sheen and Carl, even Cindy and Libby, and work in a team to get the job done sometimes, to get out of a situation. Whereas Dexter is usually more of a one-man show. Also, it's worth mentioning that apart from Mandark and the occasional giant monster, we don't see Dexter going up against crazy world-ending threats all that much. Jimmy, on the other hand, has a whole rogues gallery of adversaries from Earth and space. I'd argue that throughout both the series, Jimmy has gone up against bigger threats and ended up winning way more than Dexter has. So, the big question of the video, who really is smarter? Now, it's hard to say definitively, but both characters have different strengths. Dexter might be considered slightly more advanced in theoretical knowledge, as he's constantly creating complex devices in his lab. However, Jimmy tends to show a broader range of skills, including applying his inventions to real-life scenarios in creative ways, and often handling more complex problems. We've seen Jimmy use his gadgets in a variety of innovative ways to get out of situations. We've even seen him create gadgets on the fly using whatever he has around him. I'd say Jimmy is definitely more creative with his inventions, which is a plus. In essence, Dexter might edge out Jimmy in pure scientific understanding, but Jimmy's intelligence seems more versatile and practical when it comes to using his inventions for broader purposes. Both are brilliant, but it depends on how you measure intelligence. Dexter could be seen as more theoretical, while Jimmy's is more applied. But that's all for this one, guys. What do you think? Comment down below. Who is the bigger boy genius, the better, smarter genius, Jimmy Neutron or Dexter from Dexter's Lab? If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to tune in next time.